Well, I belong to the organisation not because I have Quaker ancestors. I possibly do, possibly a hint of them in Derbyshire, linked to my Gregory family. But I'm the archivist for York Area Meeting, and I get all the inquiries. They tend to come to us at Friargate Meeting, and they get passed to me. And so this is the other face of the looking after the papers, and we're setting up a digital archive and all sorts. But I have a wonderful time with them because I nearly always start by putting the names that people are inquiring about through either Find My Past or Ancestry or whatever. And well, I've got several recent stories. One of them recently is somebody got in touch and said, I'm trying to find where my ancestor is buried. His name was somebody, Isaac Walton, that was it. And so I put that through Find My Past and couldn't find any English references, did actually find some American ones. So I very tactfully replied to this one saying, um, could you explain to me why you think there is a York England connection and even a Quaker connection? And I got an answer back saying, oh, sorry, I was looking for York, Pennsylvania. So that was that was a fortnight ago I got that one. But a lot of the inquiries that we get relate to burials, and they're either in the Retreat burial ground, which was started in 1855 and is on the grounds of the Retreat. And we have good records there of who is buried there. We have an older burial ground up at what's called Bishop Hill on the other side of the river, which was started in the 1690s, I think it was. We don't have such good records there, and there is even in the burial records a little patch where there is 40 years missing, and area meeting or monthly meeting in those days reprimanded York for not keeping proper records of its burials. Actually, we have some plans which give us some burials. We know we have some named plots that we know about, but the 1700s are a blank, really. We know there's an area of land where they must have happened, but we don't have any details. Anyway, recently or during this year, I've had inquiries about, and this links up with the retreat actually as well, from people who were interested in Hannah Mills, who was the Leeds Quaker who was admitted to the York Asylum, and she was only there 6 weeks, and she died because of the lack of care that she received there. And so somebody who was researching the York Asylum, which was founded in the 1770s and was supposed to be a model asylum, by even 20 years later had too many people, not enough staff, and clearly was not caring for people. And this led to Hannah Mill's death within 6 weeks. Now, we know that she's buried at Bishop Hill, so York Quakers gave her a burial place. But I decided I would look into her family in a good deal more detail. And the interesting thing is that she's got a husband and 3 children who had died already, which almost certainly contributed to her melancholy, which was the basis for her admission to York Asylum. And she was put there by Leeds friends, and they were her sponsors. They would pay for her if payment was required. But the interesting thing is that she was not technically a member of Leeds Meeting until about a year before she died. And she became a member, but she already had a husband and 3 children who were buried in the Meadow Lane burial ground at Leeds, which has intrigued me. I thought, well, how come? Quakers weren't just burying anybody in their burial grounds. So I've been looking into her life, and I have found she married in Church of England, and I found somebody I think is her father, and I'm pretty sure that he married out. He came from a Quaker family. This is my light bulb moment at the moment. And so the things I'm still looking for are, her parents died quite young, and so was she actually brought up by Quakers? One of her aunts was, and she was from a very active, she was Elizabeth Lepage, and she was very active Quaker in Leeds Quaker Meeting. So this is my light bulb moment, is taking the life of Hannah Mills into more detail. And she was possibly not even Mills, she was Milnes. So I'm now looking at her husband's records. But the thing I found was that she had 2 sons who survived, and Leeds Quakers undertook, once she joined, they undertook to look after her children after she died. They undertook to do that. And one of them went to Gildersham School, which is on the north side of Leeds, and the other one was given his rent was paid. He was recorded as Thomas, who is lame, and he was given an allowance for at least 6 or 7 years. This is from 1790 to 1796-7. And then the minute book changed and I couldn't find any more reference to him. So my next light bulb moment will be when I find what happened to Thomas. There's no burial record for him, but I have the other boy who went to Gildersham. I have actually found that he had a Quaker wedding down at Gracechurch Street in 1804, and he was a gardener, and he was married from an address in Essex, so I think he may have gone down there for work. But by 1806, they were back in Leeds, and he had actually died, and he was buried at Meadow Lane as well. So his Gildersham education kept him within Quakers. So I know what happened to him now, and I'm still looking for what happened to Thomas. But this is the other little link up here, is that earlier in the year, I'd actually had an inquiry from somebody from the Lepage family who was keen to know whether you could, in the 1700s, both be a Quaker and a member of another church. And obviously I was able to tell her the situation then about people being disowned and married out. And one of my next things is now to go back and see if I can find any records in the Leeds minutes for Hannah's father being disowned from Leeds Meeting for marrying out. I have to say, I've discovered there were a lot of marrying out in that period. I think they were running out of eligible Quaker ladies, actually. I think that's my conclusion that I come to. And therefore, marrying out was what you had to do if you wanted to get yourself a nice wife. So anyway, that's my little exploration recently, which I found absolutely fascinating, and would be happy to give you a full talk on it sometime if you like. So that
sounds wonderful. Yes,
yeah.
I can. If you look at Chris,
yes, I certainly did. It's just that I haven't been to London, and therefore recently, because of COVID, messed it all up and what have you. But I've been researching the wonderfully named Fossick, Fossick family, and there's a lot of burials and all sorts going on at Gracechurch Street. So I just wondered about that. And
just Google Friend's House, not Google, just email Friend's House Library, and somebody will get in touch. There's 1 or 2 people who sort of do this sort of research thing and respond to inquiries like that, and would be really, really helpful.
Thank you. Not to be sniffed at. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
we've got Richardsons in York as well, who I think are related. They had factories producing fertilizer, and another little link to the Retreat and my Hannah Mills thing. In the Retreat archive, and I've been in touch with some students at the university who are actually also studying Hannah Mills at the moment, and one of them had found this reference to a bill for guano, but except she couldn't read the word until she passed it to me, and I said, that is guano. And of course the Retreat was, when it started, gardening and growing things was very much part of the philosophy of treating people, caring for people, that they should be doing normal things, but within the shelter of the Retreat. But the Richardsons you can see them, they were down by the river. They had a factory down there. And apparently guano was brought in shiploads from Peru and places like that. So I imagine they were dealing with that as well. But somebody, I can't remember where this one came up, but somebody commented that they were, oh yes, that was it. It was somebody else who was studying the association for anti-vivisection in York, and she got in touch. This is another, you see what I get as the archivist, I get all these interesting things. And she was saying, wasn't it strange that these Richardsons, who were very active in this anti-vivisection and society, were also using animal products in their chemical production, their fertilizer production. That was a comment she made about it. So yes, and I think the Richardsons, they definitely had links up to Tyneside as well, from what I recall. I haven't studied them in detail, but I had a little peer around the records, and it was a Maria Richardson. Henry and Maria were the ones in York. Henry and Maria, I think, didn't have any children, so that shortens their bit of family tree considerably. But yes, my heart sinks when I see people with 10 children, and then you're starting to investigate them all. And yeah, it can be quite a task, can't it? And of course, the Bese family were very heavily into industrial activity, banking, all those things. And the thing I find interesting, because I'm originally from Westmoreland, is the link to the Cumbria industry on the coast of Cumbria, and they were responsible for railways between the northeast and the northwest. It's part of their investment, and of course, one of, if not more than one of the Bese family was a member of Parliament. Mute. No, my background actually is in my work. Paid work was all in social housing and urban regeneration, but I've had a very long interest in history, and my geography degree was focusing on what was known as historical geography. I have the distinction of having had a part-time job in the Yale archives when I was doing a master's degree there, but that is a long time ago. So I have slightly more link, but I've used research facilities in various archive departments.
Right.
As far as my role in York, I'm the archivist for Friegate Local Meeting, York Area Meeting, which has 5 local meetings, and I'm also a custodian for the Quaker records that are lodged at the Brotherton in Leeds at the university, which is where our main repository, not for the whole of Yorkshire quite, but it came about because there was a sort of records room at York Meeting before it became, well, when it was Clifford Street and before it became Friegate. And when the old 1817 meeting house was being demolished in the late 1970s, that record room was going to go, and so a place had to be found for all the records. And at that point, they were transferred to Leeds University. So that's how it became our repository. York University at the time wouldn't have been in a fit. Its library wasn't developed to the degree it is today. Though from my point of view, it would have been a more logical place and a more useful or easily accessible place. So that's, but I am, I say, one of the custodians. There are 3 custodians appointed by Quakers in Yorkshire to help support and we meet when we can with the staff at Leeds to support the Quaker collection there, and we can ask awkward questions. And we're a bit cross at the moment because they moved the collection to an storage at the back of the campus, and you now have to give a week's notice, which is for anything you want to see, which is actually very awkward because it used to be able to go in and browse something and say, well, that's not quite right. Could I see the next volume, or could I do such and such? So you have technically to keep going back if you, Well, that's one of my other sources is Bese's sufferings, because we do get quite a lot of inquiries, particularly from the States, of people who've had ancestors going way back, and I point them in the direction of Bese's sufferings, which I usually access via one of the American Quaker universities who have them online, and you can get into them and look at them that way. And we do have a couple of volumes in the archive room actually, but yes, okay, I will put my email address into the chat. I'm happy to do that.
Thank you. Thanks.
About that.
The retreat records have been digitized with a grant from the oh gosh, sorry, it's gone out of my head. What's it? Foundation.
Welcome.
Wellcome, that's right, thank you. The Wellcome Foundation. And you can spend a very happy evening in your home going through them. I was looking particularly at property related papers, and so you can go through about 1,000 sheets just really, really quickly with this digitisation that there is. So if you go into the Borthwick catalogue, and then you can go from that to the Wellcome Foundation digitisation of the collection. And it's just amazing. I mean, it's absolutely, there must have been hundreds of boxes of stuff that was transferred. I don't quite know where they're storing all of those, but obviously the fact that we can see an awful lot of it. The only bit you can't really see is the personal records of some of the patients, if they're less than 100 years, I think it is. But we do actually have a friend who's had an ancestor who was in there and was able to get special permission to look at some of those records. So that was very interesting. And she let me have a look at them as well.